think about all that has happened in the past 4 years. It's really amazing. If you went back to this time right now in 2020, January 6th hadn't happened yet. The whole 2020 election, you're cutting in with the math. Yes, correct me. Give me the exact date.
1460.
Hey, it's hard to do math when you're live on the air, and it's especially hard when your brain doesn't work that way. Thank you, Chauncey. But again, let's really consider this, because it's amazing. If you went back to yourself 4 years ago today, and someone went up to you and said, "Hey, you know about the Hunter Biden laptop?" You would have had no idea what they were talking about. If someone went up to you and said, "What does the date January 6th mean to you?" You would have said, "I don't know. It's my, ugly cousin's birthday." I mean, what did the date January 6th mean to any of us before January 6th, 2021? At least that's what I learned, that in the Constitution, that's the date that they chose to certify the results of an election. I didn't know that as a Harvard history major. None of us knew about January 6th, obviously. Even if you went back to yourself 4 years ago today, and someone went up to you and said, "What does the acronym DEI mean?" I don't think a lot of people could answer the question. Either DEI was, I mean, we know that sort of the early principles of DEI go back about a decade. But as that term, the acronym DEI, I think that's a post-George Floyd thing. Certainly the way that it's been institutionalized, but you understand my point. The amount that has happened in these 4 years is staggering. And I really trace it back to that terrible day, May 25th, 2020. That is the day when, in my view, and I would be so interested to hear your thoughts, please comment in the chat. I also shouted out the call-in number, but today I have a direct line here to the chat, and we'll probably be using the chat primarily. If I could distill the impact of George Floyd's death into a single sentence, it would be that is when the hard left, which is different from liberalism, and Dennis Prager always makes that distinction. But I would say it was when the hard left leached into the mainstream of not just American politics, but the American way of life. The way that we talk with each other, the way that we live, the things our kids are learning when they go to school, the policies that our government enacts. I think it really was that turning point when the leftist elements that were existing in our country really leached into the mainstream. I mean, think about it. Think about these examples that we bring up. The Oregon Department of Education saying that finding one right answer in math is white supremacy. That did not exist prior to 2020. There were some crazies who, spoke that way and thought that way. Wokeism was definitely on the rise. But it leached into the institutions, into Department of Education codes, for instance, after 2020. All these changes to policing, we forget how big of a turning point this George Floyd death was. The cash bail laws that we talk about a lot on the show, the record numbers of retirements among police officers, all of that stuff is a post-George Floyd world, and it is a result of what happened on May 25th, 2020. I just want to show you two quick photos here, because I said that it not just changed America, it changed the world. Do you remember? It's amazing sometimes how quickly we can forget things. Do you remember that not only there were George Floyd protests here in the United States, but they were all over the world? The first picture I'm going to show you is when I was in Israel in 2022, March of 2022. And I was in the West Bank, and specifically in the town of Bethlehem. And not to get into a whole discussion about the situation in the West Bank, but there are different zones in the West Bank where there are Jewish communities, there are Palestinian communities, and then there are some areas where they're kind of mixed together. And as Many are probably aware from the amount that Israel is being discussed these days, there are these walls that the Israeli government erected in the West Bank to separate, really for security reasons. I don't want to get into it. This is not the point of the discussion, but here is a photo of what I saw when I was in Israel. This is on the wall, one of the walls in the West Bank. It's a picture of George Floyd. In the West Bank in Israel, they have a mural of George Floyd. Show you another picture. This is in Syria. This is a mural that an artist created amidst the rubble of the Syrian civil war. And we see here a picture of George Floyd with "I can't breathe, no to racism." They say that when America sneezes, the world catches a cold. And that is so true. If you look around the world, there's a great listener of this show who is actually lives in Germany. Shout out to Will. He's 26. He's been listening to Timeless and Dennis and Julie, and he emailed me. And by the way, just to shout out my email, it's julie@julie-hartman.com. You never know what could happen if you email me, because when I was in Berlin about a year ago, I actually met up with Will. And Will was, by the way, I can't promise that I'll meet up with you if you email me. I want to say that as a disclaimer, but I truly do love hearing from people who are listeners of the show. And when I met up with Will in Berlin, he was telling me that in Germany, he could trace all of the conversations about transgenderism to when it became a thing in the United States. And he said that he could trace a lot of conversations about, policing in Germany to when it happened in the United States. In other words, he confirmed what I just said, that when America sneezes, the world catches a cold. You look at various trends in other countries, and, some people may listen to this and go, oh, it sounds so self-righteous, America as this hegemonic trendsetter. It's the truth. And we need to realize that and understand that it comes with responsibility, that when things happen here, a lot of the world looks to it and reacts. And so George Floyd has become a symbol worldwide of resistance. Of course, it's, a different kind of resistance depending on the country. But it's so interesting to me that many people worldwide use an American figure and use an American symbol to advocate for what it is that they are advocating for.